Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me over there in parts unknown, Ryan Schumpert of RockyTopInsider.com is here. Ryan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be back on, and we finally hit. I guess we're still a couple days away, but we basically hit the ultimate crossover season. Tennessee basketball, Tennessee baseball about to get underway. And a little bit of a dead period for Tennessee football, but always Tennessee football stuff to talk about. So excited to be on and a lot to get to.
I got to tell you, this is my least favorite time of the Tennessee calendar, Ryan Schumpert, because my brain's moving to baseball. But basketball's fighting for its life to keep my full attention right now. But I would be lying if I was saying I was thinking more about how Tennessee's going to fare in Lexington tomorrow night versus is Marcus Phillips going to be in the weekend rotation? Because that's where my brain's been most of today, is thinking about the Tennessee baseball weekend rotation versus their way. But these weekends where it's oh, they got us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they've got us for some Tennessee men's hoops on the weekend too, man. It's gonna be some busy, just a lot of Tennessee. We got a lot of stuff to watch, and look, I don't want to complain. It's our thing. We choose to do all this stuff, and we enjoy watching Tennessee athletics. But it is more of oh, this Saturday is going to be 6 hours of Tennessee athletics. Yeah. That's just the nature of the beast at this time of year.
Yeah, you said it. No, you're 100% right, and it's just baseball to me is a weird feel. After this weekend, it's just it feels like preseason. They're so much better than the vast majority of the teams they play in non-conference play. So, I'll be able to get fired up this weekend. First time seeing the team. I'll be able to get fired up when they go to Houston here in a couple weeks. But those other 2 weekends and all the midweek games before they get going in SEC play are tough to get too jacked up for. But I do love the fact, I love them opening with at home against a bad team instead of having the Texas weekend the first weekend, because then you two birds with one stone right there. You get your first look at the team when they play good opponents, so it kind of takes out some of the intrigue. But no, it should be another fun year, and plenty still up in the air despite a really talented team that Tony Vitello and his staff have built.
We'll get into it, because there's something that's bubbling that I want to pick your brain on here with Tennessee baseball. I've been thinking about too. It's a galaxy brain tick here, Ryan Schumpert, but we'll get to it in due time. It's an electric one. It's one I've been workshopping here for the weekend. It's an electric tick. Let me just say. We'll see if we can get there here. But this is we got all the time in the world for that, Ryan Schumpert. First up, though. Tennessee blows out Oklahoma 48 hours, a little more than 48 hours ago. The most important takeaway for you following Tennessee winning in front of 13 people in Norman, Oklahoma on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it's just a simplistic take. I think it's the fact that Tennessee got a road win and it was drama-free and they did not have to play a full 40 minutes. Guys still played a lot of minutes, but I do think the wear and tear of a game that's really competitive is different than one like Saturday's. And I think any sort of game that's a little bit of a mental or physical reset is very important in SEC play. So I think there's that aspect of it. I think you're just going to look at it on the surface. It's Tennessee carrying over second half offensive explosion against Missouri and the first half against Oklahoma. That was obviously the best sign from the game. They didn't really continue it in the second half. It's hard to, probably some element of take your foot off the gas when you're up by 20 points at halftime. They didn't really need it. But over 2 straight games, you've seen Tennessee's offense look better. And that's the thing. Those are 2 games you need it to look better. I don't expect Tennessee's offense to explode in halves against the Auburns of the world or some of these teams that are really good defensively. But against Missouri and Oklahoma, who are a little lackluster defensively, against Kentucky tomorrow night, who is a very bad defensive team, those are the games Tennessee needs to be able to score in the 70s for sure and be threatening to get in the 80s to build a win. Tennessee needs to have enough offensive juice to do that, and I think they showed that in a pair of wins last week.
It's also friend of the pod, Will Warren had a good tweet about this of like it's so much fun when you're on the right side of just like the volatility of high volume 3-point shooting. Sometimes like you're just gonna have this point where it's like Tennessee shoots a lot of threes, and they've missed a lot of open looks. Like you had those even at Florida and some tough losses where the looks were by and large pretty good. They just weren't falling. But then sometimes you're going to have the second half of the Missouri game and the entirety of the Oklahoma game where it just feels like everything's falling. And to me, and I wonder if you agree with this, but I think my strongest takeaway from the Mizzou game, or from the Oklahoma game on Saturday, was something that I think we talked about leading up to this game, was just that, like, I think Chaz is going to be someone who just benefits from playing some lesser competition or some just not big time, just physical teams that he's been saddled with playing early on here in SEC play come tournament time, like the NCAA tournament. I just think Chaz is someone who's going to have those kind of games where he just gets in a rhythm. He like bad perimeter defense is going to be on the table. Like they're going to play some teams with bad perimeter defense, and Chaz is just going to make them pay. Like Chaz is with just how quick his release is, how good of a shooter he is. I do think Chaz is going to swing some tournament games for Tennessee, and I think you saw why that's the case and why it's just like, look, I get that it's going to be frustrating sometimes when he gets one shot up in the first half in an important SEC game, but I also think it's not always going to be like that, and they're not always going to play these extremely physical, aggressive defenses on the perimeter. That's more the deeper in the tournament you go, the stronger possibility you'll run into stuff like that for Chaz. But I think he's just someone who's going to benefit, especially down the stretch for some of these games too. LSU and a couple other teams that Tennessee still got in their schedule. I think Chaz is going to. My gut is Chaz is going to finish strong here for Tennessee. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's certainly on the table, possible. I was going to say that for my underrated or under the radar stat of the game was that Chaz Lanier scored 12 points, not at the 3-point line. I think that's a good sign. And look, like we saw more of that, to your point, again in non-conference play when they played less physical teams, and even against the Miamis of the world and the Syracuses of the world. Like, not that those teams are. I mean, those teams are pretty bad. 2 is probably the worst in the Power 5, but not just the complete nobodies, not just the bye games. And I think that's the hope, because you want to see Chaz do more than be strictly a 3-point shooter, and he was that on Saturday. And when he struggled in SEC play, and even some of his better games in SEC play, that's basically been what he is. And to your point, I think the length, the physicality that so many of these SEC teams impose is a big reason why. And I said that earlier today too, of talking about Missouri wasn't as big as a team, and that was a big talking point. Tennessee kind of controlled things inside, blocked whatever it was, 7 or 8 shots. I think that goes to your point with the NCAA tournament of the SEC is such an athletic league. It is such a long league that you kind of forget that Tennessee is those things, especially long, more than tall. But you kind of forget they are because they're just kind of average in the SEC. But they do have that, and I think that will bode well for them in tournament play. And then to your point, specifically with Chaz facing some teams that are a little bit less physical.
Who do you have trending up in this game, and who do you have trending down coming out of this game? And you could do the combination for Mizzou and Oklahoma as a week. Like we could do the whole week.
Yeah, I think trending down is always tough for me. I guess Bishop, just because he did not play very well in his minutes against Oklahoma. Like to the point I was trying to say earlier, I thought Tennessee did a good job of trying to not give Zakai too many minutes. Try to give him some breaks. And you take him out in the first half, they got a comfortable lead, and Tennessee turns the ball over on 3 straight possessions. Now, those weren't all Bishop. I don't even think Bishop was in the game the entire time that happened. But you just don't want to see that. And it didn't hurt Tennessee because they had a big enough lead. I think the defense played well in that stretch. Like Oklahoma wasn't able to turn those turnovers into points. But Bishop, in a pretty limited amount of minutes, 5 minutes, turned the ball over 3 times. So he would be my trending down. I don't think you're going to see like his role change a ton. I think you're going to continue to see most games, especially if it's not just a complete neck and neck game. He's going to get some opportunities. He's going to get a couple minutes to run. It's just not going to be extended or expanded, I guess would be a better word, if he has turnover issues. So he would be my trending down. I think Zakai is the easy answer for trending up, but he just shot the ball well. Like, he played well, don't get me wrong, but the numbers look better because he shot the ball well. Everything else is stuff that he usually does. So I'll go Igor, who had another great game against Missouri, and wasn't lights out against Oklahoma. Didn't have, by his standards or by some of his games, a really big game. But I thought he played pretty solid in that game. Was efficient shooting the ball. Was good defensively. Facilitated it pretty well. So he would be the guy that, I mean, you're really going back 3 games now to Florida, or I guess he didn't play in Florida. 3 games to Kentucky, but it feels like he's. I am reluctant to say turning the corner, but playing a little bit better and stringing together a good stretch of games. And for Tennessee's sake, you just hope he can find some consistency.
Gainey, it's interesting. He was the team high, plus 17 against Oklahoma. The shot's going to come and go. Like, you and I, we've been very pro Gainey on this program. We joked about where it's like, is this going to be the turning point of, like, is Barnes going to do it? Is Barnes going to flip and put Gainey in over Meshack in starting lineup? Still hasn't happened yet. I would still advocate for that, even here on a Monday ahead of the Kentucky game on Tuesday night. I still think that's in the best interest of Tennessee. I still think that's Tennessee's best lineup of Gainey, Chaz, Zakai, Igor, and Felix. I just think that's the one you got to live and die with, especially come tournament time. I think that's the 5 that should be on the floor. And I understand, like, sometimes it's matchups where you can go back and forth off fouls and that kind of thing, where you go defense for Jemai and Gainey. Like, obviously there are some circumstances where you go the other way, but I mean, Jemai, the offense wasn't there again on Saturday against Oklahoma. He, I think, took 1 3 and he missed that, and 3 shots as a whole. Still some stuff where it's just kind of frustrating when he's driving inside and just the finishing. Like, I think these games blend together, but I'm pretty sure it was the Oklahoma game where he gets it. He makes a great defensive play, gets a defensive board, moves at the court, fast break, and loses the ball and like right at the rim and like falls backwards, and they don't get a foul, they don't get any points, and it's like this great defensive play, and then you're like, it just doesn't work so much in transition where you're like, you got to at least get fouled in that scenario. You need to go up stronger. Like, I've talked ad nauseum about the dunk aspect to this, but I don't know. I don't know where Jemai is. Like, I don't know where to put my stock in him, because I think he's still a really good player defensively for Tennessee. But I also think, I mean, the offensive stuff is still just kind of real. I don't know. I don't know where to put Jemai right now. Like, as a long-term Jemai guy on this very program, Ryan, I'm very just up in the air in how to talk about Jemai, other than I'm still pretty adamant that Jordan Gainey should be in the starting lineup at this point and play more than Jemai.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that Jemai's definitely pretty simple. He's just not a great offensive player. You're going to get like a good offensive outing, 8 to 10 points, maybe knock down a 3 or 2 every 3 or 4 games, but you're just not going to get that consistently. I mean, I think we've seen that long enough. He needs to be more consistently disruptive on the defense, and that would be where my complaint is. That would be where I'm like, that's what I want to see Jemai change, is be more consistently disruptive defensively. And it's like, I mean, we're both on the same page of thinking they should start Gainey. So it's not like Jemai's not going to play. They have a 7-guy rotation. Jemai's going to play a lot of minutes either way. So to me, it's simple. He's going to play a lot of minutes. I think that they should start Gainey over him. But either way, he's going to play a ton of minutes. You need him to be really disruptive defensively every night. When Tennessee's playing good 2-3 guards, you need Jemai to be able to be a lockdown defender and try to take them out of the game. And then, like I said, it feels like every 3 or 4 games he has a nice little offensive showing. Not that it's 20 points or anything, but 8, 10 points, knocks down a 3-pointer. That's what, to me, that's what you want from him. So I wouldn't say I have a ton of change in my opinion on Jemai.
That's fair. We should also mention Cade Phillips had a great week. Cade Phillips continues to give Tennessee very important minutes. Like, he's really good at his role, and Cade, I think, it's just been good for Tennessee. Like, he's just solid. And he checks a lot of boxes for what Tennessee needs, especially on the glass. But I thought he had a really good week. Based on what you saw,
one thing real quick. It would be fascinating to see some of these rotations and lineups if JP hadn't got hurt.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not sure. Like, I guess that they would probably play Cade more at the 4 and play more 2 bigs. But I think you would only really play Cade at the 4 with JP because JP is more of an offense threat. Like, I don't think you could play Cade and Felix together. Obviously, a very hypothetical debate here, but I was thinking about it the other day. That he's come on so strong that he has made the JP loss. Like, don't get me wrong, there are games you feel the JP loss, but it's not nearly as big as you probably would have thought if you heard it in May that JP Estrella was going to miss the season. And that's a huge testament to Cade, and it makes it interesting for next year too, when Tennessee's got 4 guys returning and 3 of them are sitters. So you almost wish you could do a little trade and get a wing or a guard back instead of one of those guys.
Well, we also probably did not think going into last offseason Tobe and Jonas Adu would both be gone. So they might have a little bit too many bigs right now, but like, hey, we still got a long way to go for this offseason, and just with the portal and everything, who knows what this team looks like and what this roster looks like next year. How did the Vols fix how Kentucky beat them in Knoxville? What do you think is the most important thing that Tennessee cleans up from their loss at home?
The make shots game, man. You don't shoot 11 of 41 from 3-point range. That would probably go a long way to winning on Tuesday night. Analytics there. I think more specific stuff, and Rick talked about this at the first game. Like, Kentucky's packing the paint. They're baiting Tennessee into taking threes. Tennessee's already not a good rim offensive team. When teams are daring you to shoot from 3 and packing the paint, it becomes a little more difficult. I do think Tennessee needs to try to get the defense moving side to side, get Kentucky's defense moving some before they shoot some of these open threes. Because if you do that, then you have more guys in rebounding position. It gets Kentucky scrambling a little bit, and then you open up some spots to get offensive rebounds. Because the big thing I think that went hand in hand in Tennessee building this team, or Tennessee shooting a lot of threes this year, is that they're a really good offensive rebounding team. And when you shoot a lot of threes and you're a really good offensive rebounding team, there's going to be a lot of long boards. You're going to get a lot of second chance opportunities, and you hope to get some easy putbacks there. In Tennessee, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I did not feel like Tennessee got a lot of second chance before the last 3 minutes of the game when Kentucky didn't get a defensive rebound. So I guess the final numbers will look good on Tennessee's offensive rebounding. And did not feel like Tennessee got a ton of boards in the first 35 minutes of that game. So I'll say that. Then, on the defensive end, I think it's about just being locked in from the jump. Kentucky got a number of wide open shots in the first couple minutes of that game that put Tennessee in a hole. The rest of that game, I thought Tennessee's defense was pretty good. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Kentucky shot 50% from 3, and they shot a mostly contested threes. So you kind of just if they do that again, which they're capable of, I think you kind of just tip your cap to them for hitting tough shots. But you can't start like that first game. The first 5 minutes, just Kentucky hit 3 threes where nobody in the vicinity, just complete defensive breakdowns. You can't have that. You can't dig yourself a hole on Tuesday night in Lexington in what I'm sure will be a rowdy crowd and a Kentucky team that's once again desperate to get a win.
What do you think? Call your shot right now, Ryan. Tipping this on Monday night. Do you think Tennessee wins tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think so. I picked them too in my prediction. I wrote it. It's the most conflicted I've been all year on a pick. Illinois was the only other one that I think was even close. Every other game, I felt pretty confident in who I was going to pick to win.
Well, Florida beating Auburn, Tennessee needs to. There's more of an impetus now with the 1 seed battle here with the Gators now moving in. I know it's one of your favorite conversation points, Ryan Schumpert, but you got to have it. You got to have it.
What's the dude from Boston? That was Ben Affleck. I'm Ben Affleck drinking the coffee, ripping the sig meme whenever you bring up the one seed conversation.
Don't take my bit. I've got the sad Ben Affleck with the Dunkin' Donuts and everything else. Like, hold on. The Chase Thomas podcast. I can't even probably say that. Probably can't even say what I was about to say in terms of an advertisement here. So I'm not even going to say that. Okay,
I'm the Popeyes worker sitting outside, leaning forward, very tired. No, you're right. Look, my gut tells me Tennessee wins. My gut tells me Tennessee shoots a whole lot better than they did 2 weeks ago. They continue to shoot the ball well like they have the last 2 games. It's just that aspect of like Kentucky could jump on Tennessee early and win this game by 10 to 15 points, and it would not surprise me at all. I'm going to feel like an absolute idiot for picking Tennessee to win in Rupp Arena. But my pick is Tennessee to win. I think Tennessee will play well, and they'll get their revenge.
I think it's very much in the cards. Switching gears here. Vols football depth chart here, Ryan Schumpert. It's your favorite. We got to have some football here.
Once again, Popeyes, man.
Do you feel better or worse about the tight end room in 2025? I've never been more optimistic, by the way, listening to Ethan Davis on Vol Club Confidential today. I'm all the way back in, Ryan Schumpert. I'm all the way back in. Ethan Davis, Miles Kitselman, Cole Harrison, and the two freshmen, Jack Van Dorselaer and Desan Brame. It's quietly pretty deep. Hey, Ryan Schumpert, am I talking myself back in to? I think this is absolutely the most amount of talent Tennessee's had in that room since Heupel got there, right?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You have one less proven guy, or at least like last year you went in the season feeling good about three guys. Obviously Tennessee played three guys. Now going into the season you feel good about two guys, and there's a number of options. It would not be surprising if they were good players for Tennessee. So yeah, I think you feel good about it. Probably a little bit better. And I guess the thing I would say is it feels like they're going to be forced to play Ethan Davis more reps. Nothing drove me crazier than last year, like 2-minute drill, Ethan Davis not being on the field. It's like, what? Why is Miles Kitselman, good player, like him? Why is Miles Kitselman on the field in 2-minute drill and not Ethan Davis? So yeah.
Or why didn't he get opportunities in the slot? Like with how banged up you were, and he was a receiver at Collins Hill. Like he won a state title, he played with Travis Hunter. Like Collins Hill was a powerhouse in the state of Georgia. I don't understand why you didn't at least give it a look there. Like that to me will never just blow my mind. I guess you want to keep him at tight end, but you saw like how the Eagles were using Dallas Goedert like really close to the line of scrimmage, like really close, but he's still standing up position, and they were featuring him in that way. And we're like, this is how you got to use that. Like you have somebody. Ethan Davis is super talented, and they got to figure out a way to maximize Ethan Davis this year. Like Kitselman was really good for them this past year, but like the difference between Davis and Kitselman is like if we see a stat line this fall and Davis actually leads Tennessee in like receptions and yards one game, I don't think that means Tennessee lost the game. If you see Kitselman led Tennessee in receptions or yards, Tennessee lost that game like they did this past year. I don't think that's necessarily true for Ethan Davis because I think he has some more juice. I just think he's a potential mismatch that they have not figured out maybe how to maximize him in their scheme. But you got to do it, man. It's year 3. Ethan Davis is just too talented not to figure out how to use this guy.
I agree. I would give them a little bit of a pass last year because I think you'd have to just change a lot of things. Yeah. I don't think you're going to use Ethan Davis in the slot the same way you use a prototypical slot receiver. And Tennessee has the wide split, so they play so far from the line of scrimmage. Then you would have to change a lot, or you had to tinker with a lot of stuff. But yeah, you have a full offseason to deal with it. Your receiver room has never looked worse than it does at the moment. You're going to be desperately searching for options and guys to be good pass catchers for you. And I think you have a very talented one in Ethan Davis. And like you said, a guy that can be a mismatch. So I'm all about that being something that Tennessee is working on this offseason and something Tennessee needs to make a little bit more of a priority in its offense.
I wonder if that's a new wrinkle. Like, I just think there's too much talent. Like, we've talked about it for years of, like, just how the tight end's used in this offense, and you've been kind of always suspect of just what a tight end can be in this game.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's an adjustment because you have so much talent. You've recruited. Like, why would you bring in Brame and Van Dorselaer and you still have Ethan Davis? And these are all guys who are playmaking tight end potential. And I don't really understand the point of bringing these guys in if you're not going to maximize that position in the passing game. So I wonder if because they did so much 12 personnel last year, but it wasn't like Holden Stays. Look, we'll see what he's like at Indiana, but I just don't think that was a good fit for this scheme and for what Tennessee was trying to do. And I wonder if they could do it all over again. It's like, man, maybe we should have just like let Ethan get those reps and see what we had there with Ethan and Miles because you're going to have them together again this year anyway. I don't know if Ethan was ready for that moment, but I don't know. I just think there is a lot of. I think that is one of the things we're looking for. Like you talked about with the receivers, like there's so much uncertainty there. I think part of this offseason has to be figure out how to maximize tight ends in this offense a little bit more. I think that's a missing element. It's like you have talented guys in that room, but the scheme hasn't really allowed for them to really maximize their potential. So I don't know. I was wondering if Ethan Davis would be around here for year 3 based on how much he's played the first 2 years. But
Yeah.
I think it's a win that he's back. And I mean, there was some Cole Harrison buzz last year, and Kitselman was obviously solid and an older player. And like we said, you have 2 blue chip freshmen who maybe they'll play, maybe not. But like, there's just too much talent in the room not to figure out how to maximize these tight ends a little bit more. Like, you just have to figure it out.
Yeah, and I agree to the point of, like, you have Brame behind Davis, and he is – not that I've been grinding to the Son Brame high school tape, but, like, it's generally speaking, the skill set seems pretty similar. The build seems pretty similar. So once Ethan Davis is gone, you feel like you could have another guy step up into that role. And, again, this whole offseason, like, there were 2 things I wanted to see from Tennessee more than anything. Go out and receiver in the transfer portal. Didn't exactly do that. And 2 was to see Josh Heupel needed to take a real long inward look at his offense and how it needed to be adjusted. And I think this would be something that makes sense, especially when you consider that you didn't do part 1 or you didn't do part A. So completely agree. And to your point, and look, I don't know the NIL, Dylan. This is pure speculation. They flipped this on Brame from Oregon. Oregon is 1, 2, or 3 in NIL money is from the reported stuff. Obviously, none of that's official. I imagine, again, I don't know how much money. I'm not saying Deshaun Brame was Tennessee's 2nd or 3rd highest paid player in the class, but I imagine they gave him a nice little NIL package. And I don't get why you would do that if you're not going to adjust your offense to make throwing the ball to the tight ends a lot more prominent. And just a lot more of a possibility. I just never saw it as much of a possibility in the way Heupel's offense has been the first 4 years.
I think that's fair. Final things here. 2 quick baseball things for you, Ryan Schumpert. I mentioned at the top of the show. That's all I've been thinking about here, Ryan Schumpert, is Tony Vitello out of nowhere, and Mike Wilson of Knoxville News Sentinel doing his depth chart projections here ahead of the weekend, and like just putting the Tennessee baseball fan base on notice here. Hey, look out for this weekend. It's going to be potentially a little bit different than we anticipated. At least from the outset here against Hofstra. Ryan Schumpert, Marcus Phillips, is that happening? Is he going to be in the weekend rotation? And what have you seen this offseason from Marcus to make you think, oh, this isn't as big of a surprise as I think it might be for the casual fans for Tennessee baseball who are just getting back into it? Are like, wait, Marcus Phillips is going to be in the rotation? Like, what did you see from him this offseason that maybe lends itself to believe that like this could be huge? Because I think this is like the ultimate boom or bust type move for Tennessee baseball. Like, I think when you look up and down this roster, there's not someone who has a crazier swing in terms of like just career changing season where he is like looks like a first round MLB draft pick for Tennessee this year, or back to the bullpen used sparingly because the control and other stuff just doesn't get figured out. Like his just pendulum is so tantalizing, but it's also so wild that like I have no idea what to make of this Marcus Phillips development. What say you, sir?
I agree with all that. I mean, it was, you say crazy to everybody on the outside. It was that way to me 2 weeks ago when I saw him start in a scrimmage and, started to hear some people around the program say that was a possibility. And then obviously he started on Saturday this week in Tennessee's Pizza Series. And those 2 things, he threw well in starting roles. I believe it was 4+ innings this past weekend. And, the first scrimmage I saw him throw in was a little bit shorter. I think maybe through 3 innings, somewhere in that range. Got at least into the 3rd inning. And I'm sure he wasn't super built up. So it wasn't like he got ran in the 3rd inning. And he's been good in both those. I think he gave up 2 runs on Saturday. And
I think it was just a home run, right? Wasn't it just like a 2-run home run from Stone?
Yeah, I think that's right. And not too many hits either. And the command's been good. I mean, the command in the fall was, again, when I watched him a couple of times, kind of hit or miss. Some days it was good. Some days he was a little wild and had some walks. I did feel like and this is purely a vibes take. I don't have the stats from the fall in front of me or anything.
This is a vibes-friendly podcast, Ryan.
This is a vibes-friendly podcast. I know that. It felt like he didn't let it spiral on him when he had some command issues in the fall. Like, I felt like he did a better job of working through it. And gritting his way out of it, which is what you want to see from him. So I think he's going to start on Saturday for Tennessee against Hofstra. Will he be there the second weekend? Certainly. I think it's going to be a lot of trial and error from Tennessee these first at least 2 weeks. You'd probably like to have some sort of idea by the time you go to Texas what it's going to look like. Though I say that, I think the Saturday games, Rice maybe is the little bit easier game of the three they had there. But all that to say, there'll be some trial and error first month of the season before SEC play. But we know Liam Doyle's a guy on Friday night. Those next 2 days, I think things are up in the air, and it's what you said. The ceiling is so high. The pendulum, when it is good, is so good for Phillips. And I think that's what the staff wants to see. They want to see Marcus Phillips grab that job on Saturday, and I think he's going to get the first crack at it.
If we get just a situation where Marcus Phillips just grabs the bull by the horns, and you get like a situation where their weekend rotation is suddenly Doyle, Phillips, Coons, like come SEC play, whoo! That's that's a high upside weekend rotation. That is some good balance in terms of like you got the ready to go transfer on Fridays, and Tennessee's obviously had a lot of success there with Doe and Andrew Lindsay on Friday nights. Even last year, transfer guys out of the gate with Stamos and Kazi. Friday nights is just the transfer night. Transfer Tennessee night is the Friday night starter. Can't be an in-house guy on Fridays. Sorry, those are the rules.
Chad Dallas before that.
God, that's right.
Yeah. You'd have to go all the way back to Garrett Stallings, I think, to find one that wasn't a transfer into 2019.
Goodness gracious. I'm here for it though. I'm here for the Marcus Phillips renaissance here in 2025, and I think him just being electric will be a lot of fun. Like I hope this works out, because that's the best case scenario, and something I had not anticipated is like being able to keep Snead in the bullpen as a multi-use, just a big innings eater guy, and just letting Teagan ease into being a weekend starter. But if you get to the point in SEC play where you can count on Coons, Phillips, and Doyle, I think that's a really, really good spot, and one of the best rotations, potentially. High upside for sure in the SEC this spring. Final thing here. This year's Dean Curley is going to be who, Ryan Schumpert, because there's just too many freshmen. And something I was thinking about this week is, and this was kind of my galaxy brain take here, Ryan Schumpert, I think it's not a problem, but Tennessee is got, like, this is the number one recruiting class in. Like, this is the best recruiting class Tony Vitello has ever had. He's never had this many guys who it just seems like could play right now and are just, it's going to be awkward. I think there's so much pressure on the guys in front of these talented freshmen right now. Cause even like, is it Manny Marin? How do you pronounce his last name?
Marin's what we're going with.
Okay.
I was told that us native English speakers don't really know how to pronounce it, so they're just going with Marin.
Okay. Well, he's doing well, and he could play anywhere in the infield. You still have Levi Clark, who we'll see. I mean, depending on some health of some guys in front of him, he might be in a platoon spot here in opening weekend. You have Stone Lawless. You have Jay Abernathy, obviously, right there, who everyone's starting to know about. I look around and I'm like, there's a lot of just potential first round talent in this Tennessee freshman class that I wonder how they're going to manage it, because you're trying to reload and defend a national title, but it's something I'm going to monitor, because like Dean Curley came out of nowhere because of injuries in front of him, and he took that job and he never gave it back. Like, if you are a starter right now for Tennessee baseball and you're not one of the freshmen, you can't afford, I think, to miss any significant time, because the guys behind you are just like, Tennessee has, it's crazy to think, but I don't think it's hyperbole to say there's never been this much talent behind a lot of really good older players in the Tony Vitello top of his era. Like, this is the most amount of pressure those guys have had with the amount of talent behind them, because we've never seen this. This is the first number one overall class that's come in under Vitello, and there are some dudes by all accounts, but you know better than I. Is that a hyperbole? Because I don't think so.
I would say, man, 21 class, you guys were 22 were pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Like Burns, Beam.
I'm just not. No. I'm not throwing starters. By the way, I should have specified. I'm not throwing pitchers out. I'm just talking straight 1 through 9. Like, yes. That's who I'm talking about.
Lineup, that way. I would agree. And even, Chris Newstrom's a guy that would come with in the fall, and he had an awesome weekend in the Pizza Series and has been good in the preseason. So Yeah, no, I completely agree there. And that's to answer your question who the Dean Curley is, because I was going through writing preview stuff this week. I was going through some of my previews from last year, and that's what was the most jarring. And that was the thing I was most just kind of Dean Curley mentioned is one of the options at shortstop, amidst others, not even one of the top options, is middle infielder to start by more. I think in that sense, it's probably Manny Marin. From the standpoint of it's like
interesting.
I think we know we are not field. Colby Backus will get shots at it. There will be other people that start in left field early in the season, but it would be a surprise to me. I think to everybody that follows the team closely, if Jay Abernathy's not the guy in left field. Levi Clark, his bat's been so good, so consistent, fall on, and he plays at the position in catcher where you play multiple guys and you have midweek opportunities. First, you can place in first base. Tennessee's not had the first base spot really settled. And then you just say, okay, maybe he's a DH bat. I think there's been a lot of talk about both of those guys and what their role will be on this team. I think there's been a lot of talk, and I say talk like this is kind of how I felt, a lot of it too. Manny looks really good, but there's nowhere for him to play this year. And I still kind of feel that way. Like he's boxed out in the middle of the infield, but he can play third base really well. If Andrew Fisher, his arm is not, I think Andrew Fisher could potentially play first base this week. He played first base on Sunday in the Pizza Series when he wasn't able to throw a ton yet. So maybe he's back, but not at third base yet. I think Manny Marin is that next guy that's going to get an opportunity, and he's a really good blend of being super, super smooth as a defender with a really good bat. So he would be the pick of the guy that I think most people, when you outline it, you don't see what the huge role would be for him this year just because of the guys ahead of him, where I think it's a lot easier, especially Abernathy and to a lesser degree Levi Clark. But I continue to be impressed with him, and he's a guy that's going to get opportunities, and it would not surprise me at all if he ran with them when he does.
I love it. Ryan Schumpert, what could the Go-Bucks check out from you and the team over at RockyTopInsider.com this week?
Yeah, I just teased it a minute ago, running preview stories all week. So Monday was infield preview. We'll have outfield on Tuesday, pitching on Wednesday. And then Thursday is the fun stuff. Do some season accolades and predictions and stuff. So check out all of those. We'll have plenty of Tennessee basketball coverages. Another top 15 matchup on tap on Tuesday night at Rupp Arena. And it's a revenge week for Tennessee basketball. They try to get one against Kentucky, and Vanderbilt comes to town on Saturday. So be a ton of stuff. Yeah, I'd be shocked if Tennessee loses that game. So, but a big week for Tennessee. I mean, you said it. The one seed chase got tightened up with Florida's big win and down on the Plains. So, tons of Tennessee athletics, and we'll have you covered with all of it.
I love it. Ryan Schumpert, keep up the great work, my friend, and I'll talk to you next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.